Now, as your counselor, I'm here to tell you about drugs and alcohol and why they're bad. First of all, smoking's bad. You shouldn't smoke. And alcohol is bad. You shouldn't drink alcohol. And as for drugs, well, drugs are bad. You shouldn't do drugs. Okay, that about wraps up my introduction.
So just for context, this is actually my third attempt at doing this review. So if I come off as being overly blunt at some points, I'm sorry. So part 5 of JoJo's is many things, but most of all, it is a breaker of spirits. What I mean by that is, I had a pretty hard time actually getting through the material for this review. And then when I finally reached the end, I kind of just felt hollow on the inside. Oh god, am I gonna get canceled by the JoJo's fandom after this video? If you want a more positive review of JoJo's, go check out my review of part 4. I adored Diamond is Unbreakable. But today though, instead of doing my usual format, I thought we'd swap it up a little bit, just so I can make it easier to get through this unusual part. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive into the good and the bad of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5, Golden Wind. So right off the bat, I want to give a lot of props to Araki and David Productions for the gorgeous art designs on display during this part of the story. Having the story set in Italy was a great move that allows every scene to be a piece of art. Not only that though, but the initial premise of the story is very strong. Having the protagonist Giorno join the Mafia and then work his way through the ranks to the top in order to actually take it down for good is a very easy thing to get behind. Part 5 continues the trend from Part 4 of having a large cast of stands with interesting and unique abilities. I mean, King Crimson, guys, am I right?
He erases time, but what does that mean? If you erase time, then shouldn't it not be there?
As for Golden Wind's soundtrack, mwah, so good. You have a pair of pretty solid opening themes, but when you get to the themes of the individual characters, they are very strong, especially Giorno's. Also, the portrayal of death is done really well in Golden Wind. Like for example, the scene where the gang is trying to come to grips with the death of Abacchio and Bruno were just really touching and some of the strongest pieces of characterization done throughout the series. And that's about all the good I have to say about Golden Wind. Oh boy, okay, so let's get into the stuff that I did not like a whole lot. So I'm gonna try to not allow this to devolve into just an endless rant. So Golden Wind is in a lot of ways very similar to Stardust Crusaders, but I find it a lot harder to forgive its shortcomings this time around. The beginning was really strong and I was pretty invested right off the get-go, but as time went on, I just found myself less and less interested in what was going on. Like, don't get me wrong, Golden Wind is full of a lot of very interesting scenarios and stand battles, but I just didn't really care. And then you have the goal of characters like Giorno, Bruno, and the rest of the crew. They were all admirable, but as for the people themselves, I was suffering from a serious case of I don't actually care if they live or die. And I feel really bad for saying that because I can tell that Rocky tried really hard to make these characters come alive. But for some reason, it just didn't land. And then the more I thought about it, the more I realized that the writing in general for Part 5 is sloppy. There are a lot of characters and events that are set up early, but don't have any payoff. For example, Koichi, Jotaro, and Fugo. Like, why did we get this whole detailed backstory for Fugo if he's just going to leave the cast and then never return a couple episodes later? As for Koichi and Jotaro, they just show up at the beginning of the series, tell the audience that, oh, by the way, Giorno is the son of Dio, and then they peace out, never to be seen again. And because this is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, you would think that his lineage would be important in some way, but it's not. Which is weird, because then maybe you could argue that Araki was going for a subversion of that by having the theme of Golden Wind being that your fate is in your own hands and you can determine your own destiny. But nope, that is not the case either. Right at the end, we get a weirdly placed flashback involving a stand called Rolling Stones. And what this does is it explains to us that the fates of certain characters was already predetermined for the most part, and all that we did throughout this part of the story was kind of delay the inevitable deaths that were going to happen. Which I take as meaning that fate is predetermined, so I'm just here left getting mixed messages from Araki. Like, you can't have it both ways, Araki. Or was that supposed to be foreshadowing the deaths of these characters? Because if that is the case, then why are you putting the foreshadowing after their deaths? I don't think that's how it's supposed to work. But I'm not done yet, because I want to talk about a certain character. That being the final boss, Diavolo. We spend over 30 episodes with this big mystery about who is the boss and what is his real identity. Only for it to be revealed that he's pretty much just a clone of Dio, but with pink hair and the same goals. I mean, for goodness sake, his stand even manipulates time as well. That's 3 final bosses in a row where their power involves time manipulation in some manner. But the cherry on top is that our main hero, Giorno, is not even the one to defeat him. Well, kind of not really. We get introduced to the concept of Requiem stands right at the end, and it turns out that Golden Experience Requiem, whose power was not known beforehand, is literally the perfect Deus Ex Machina to defeat King Crimson and Diavolo. So, Giorno doesn't even know what his stand is capable of, and his stand acts mostly independently from Giorno at the right times. So what ends up happening is his stand gets a godlike ability that perfectly counters the enemy villain, acts on its own, defeats the enemy villain, and Giorno's just like, well, I was here and I was present. Giorno does not have to work hard to overpower the villain in any way. Giorno does not have to use his brain to outwit the villain in any way. He kind of just gets handed a victory on a silver platter. In hindsight, this review kind of turned into a rant. So again, I'm sorry, but Golden Wind just had a lot of problems I was not able to get over. If you're still here at this point of the review, mad props to you. I respect the hell out of you, even if you hit my guts right now. Part 5 may be over with, but there is still more JoJo's to cover. And to be honest, I'm still quite excited to get into parts 6 through 8, even though Golden Wind was a bit of a letdown. However, before we actually get started with Stone Ocean, I think it would be for the best if I took a little break from JoJo's. Part of me is left wondering if a lot of my gripes for part 5 would have been fixed if I was just in a different mindset or just at a different point in time. Franchise fatigue is a very real thing. So I think a little bit of time away will do us quite a lot of good. I mean, heck, I might even feel inspired to come back and take another look at Golden Wind at some point in the future. So what I have planned is a little bit of a detour to another franchise that a lot of people have been recommending me to check out for a while, and then we're going to come back to JoJo's after that. And when we do come back, I'll be diving into the Stone Ocean manga. I don't have a date for that locked in yet, but rest assured, part 6 will be coming soon. So if you're interested in JoJo's or other anime and manga related content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We are actually right on the cusp of hitting 900, and for that I am incredibly grateful to each and every one of you. Until the next time though, I have been LootingKyle, and remember, be kind to others, and have yourselves a wonderful day. Take care.
大丈夫でしょ。だって君弱い